But there's something really fun that you pointed out. I know you were big on this on Twitter yesterday. A big quote from Reggie Miller regarding Michael Jordan. This gets into a conversation about teaming up with stars. He had a quote saying that if Michael Jordan would have called me and tried to sway me to come to Chicago when in their heyday in the 1990s when Jordan was winning championships and Reggie Miller was always not winning championships, he said if he tried to sway me to come to Chicago, I would have told him to go blank himself. Reggie Miller said, I would have told Michael Jordan to go blank himself. I would have never teamed up and left the Pacers to join another superstar. Now, I know you, Jay. I mean, you think Reggie Miller's full of it when he says that.
So it's funny. I don't want to go on too much of a rant. I think Reggie Miller is a friend of Dan Patrick. I think he goes on the show a lot. But Reggie Miller's just totally full of garbage. Okay, he's a terrible announcer. And also, this is the worst take I've heard a former NBA player say. First of all, why would Michael Jordan call you to join his team? He's got Steve Kerr. He's got Paxson. He don't need you, Reggie. You never beat him. Why would he recruit you? And second of all, Reggie, let's look back at the 90s with some reality, okay? Let's look back at the 90s, and Charles Barkley hated everybody, wanted to beat everybody. Twice demanded trades to contenders so he could win a title. Demanded to be traded to the Suns, said he would retire if they didn't trade him. Then also demanded to be traded to the Houston Rockets. Scottie Pippen rode that Jordan train to 6 titles. The second Michael Jordan leaves, hey, get me the hell out of here, demanded a trade, and the Bulls gifted him a trade to the Rockets, a contender. Let's not forget Clyde Drexler goes to the finals with the Portland Trailblazers. Can't win the chip. Hey, guys, I need to go to a contender. Get me out of here. I want to go play with this guy because I like him. I'm going to go play here. Chris Mullin, Golden State Warriors, all the good players. It's so funny, Jason, that we don't do this with any other sport. All the good players in the 90s, with the exception of Jordan, basically, ended up playing later in their career for another team trying to win a title. Okay? Almost every single one of them. We don't do this in the NFL. We don't say, hey, man, those defensive ends in the 1990s were way better than they are today. We don't do this in Major League Baseball. Oh, the pitching was so much better. We don't do this in tennis. When nobody says, anybody, Mats Wilander or whatever tennis player you want to call up from the 80s or 90s can beat any of the great guys now. Why, Jason, do we do this in basketball? In every sport, the players now are bigger, faster, stronger. We have way more technology, okay? We have way more information and analytics now than we do then. And yet, some reason, 90s NBA is the greatest ever. I don't understand it. I think of the NBA in the 90s almost, you mentioned Moneyball earlier in the show. You remember that scene in Moneyball where they're having the old school scouts in the room and Brad Pitt keeps pointing at Jonah Hill and saying, numbers guy, what do we got? Numbers guy, what do we got? I feel like the old school guys are all the 90s NBA stans who think 90s NBA was the greatest thing ever. A 94-89 final is like the best game ever. Oh, it's defense. And now you look at the analytics and like, oh, we're way smarter than we were 20 years ago. So corner threes are amazing. And basically any three is better than a long two. And I don't understand how we are smarter in every aspect. Computers. Jason, you've got young kids, right? You know it's way easier for a kid to pull out an encyclopedia from his pocket now than to go over to the cupboard and be like, oh, where's the J for the encyclopedia? Let me look this up. Or have to go to the library for something. You've got a library in your pocket. And I've ranted too long, and I'm sure you want to fire back on everything. You probably took notes. But go ahead. This 90s NBA stuff is just nonsense. We forget. Last note. From like 88, 89 to about 95, the NBA added teams. Michael Jordan dominated the expansion era. People don't want to believe that. Go look up who Charlotte was trotting out. It was a bunch of plumbers and Michael Jordan dunking on a bunch of 6'6" white guys. And it was like, oh, it's the greatest era of basketball ever. Like, guys, let's calm down about the 90s. All right, I'll shut up now.
All right, well, I'm with you on a lot, except for the fact that Reggie Miller is full of it. I'm with you on a lot of it. Look,
oh boy,
Jordan would have not recruited Reggie Miller because he didn't have to. Right. It's not like they were struggling to win championships, and it was, boy, we got to keep this train rolling somehow. No, once Jordan started winning, he won. He retired for 2 years. He came back. They won 3 more. It's not like they were struggling. It's not like it was, what are we going to do? We got to go get Reggie Miller. I got to go need help. So that's the first part of it. the whole thing about the 90s, look, it's like anything in life. Who's talking about the 90s? People who lived through it, right? Because this is what life was like. Life was. And listen, there's definitely things you talk about in your life, what life was like, before 9/11, after 9/11, when, everybody's a little bit more scared and wondering how things are going to go. But it's more about when you were younger. Of course, everything was better when you were younger because you were younger and you were doing more and you were out. You were able to go out and party till 2 a.m. and wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to work and go, yeah, I'm going to eat a cup of coffee, man. I'm ready to go. Everything was better when you were younger. The 90s was great because we saw Jordan and we saw the best player that any of us had seen. Then LeBron shows up about 10 years later and he's been running things for the past 2 decades. But this was where the NBA kind of broke through and became that number 2 sport to the NFL. So I get its historical place in where, okay, this is where the NBA made a big jump and all the big superstars became bigger than life. And you could be a superstar in Utah, whether you were Malone or Stockton. You could be a superstar. So you didn't just have to be in LA or Boston or Philadelphia. But the whole thing with Reggie Miller is I believe Reggie Miller when he would have said no way. Reggie Miller, you got to remember his career, and he was always, I am the best player on the court. I don't care. I can make any shot. I can do anything I want to. I'm going to carry this team. I mean, he had that superstar ego and mentality of, yeah, you can say Jordan's the best, but you know what? No, I'm the best. I can do this. So I believe him when he says, I wouldn't have gone to do it. Because there's some players that had such that big of killer mentality and that big ego where they go, no, I'm not going to go team with somebody. I'm going to do it right here where I've been doing it for my entire career. So Miller's one of those guys. I believe him when he says that.
Interesting. Now, I look back, and you just opened up a total new door for me, right? When we think about what's your favorite music, right? It's what you grew up with, the soundtrack of your youth. And, for people who grew up in the 90s music is the best, right? We do this with movies, too. You get attached to movies from your youth. Entertainment. Well, we don't do that with Major League Baseball or the NFL, right? For whatever reason, we do it with the NBA. I guess because the NBA is probably the most entertaining of those 3 sports. I love the NFL for gambling, for fantasy. It's only 16 games. Baseball, we know it was the sport in the 70s and 80s. It's kind of faded a little bit. But basketball is entertainment, and Reggie Miller was great entertainment. The choking at, Spike Lee in the Garden. And Reggie grew up, he was in the hotbed playing in Indianapolis, right? Indiana, after Larry Bird, Indiana was like the 90, was the spot in the 90s in the Midwest. That's like the heartland. People love basketball above all in Indiana. And we just, I think, overrate Reggie Miller. I'm sorry. You said some nice things about him. Great. He averaged over 20 points for 6 seasons. Couldn't do anything in the playoffs, getting past Jordan until Jordan retired. By the way, our Knicks couldn't get to the finals until Jordan quit the first time, then retired the second time. And then the Pacers get there and lose to the Lakers. So Reggie Miller, for whatever reason, is thought of as, he's one of the great all-time greats. Is he really? Do you, Jason, you've watched a lot of NBA. Who's had the better career, Reggie Miller or Damian Lillard, who's only 30 years old?
Ooh, so far I got to give it to Reggie. Reggie got the Pacers.
Oh, my gosh, really?
Reggie's got the Pacers to the – look, Damian Lillard's not done yet. When it's all said and done, I'm sure it's going to be Damian Lillard, but Reggie Miller did do it for almost 2 decades. He got them to an NBA Finals.
After Jordan retired. And Dame's not getting by the Golden State Warriors, that dynasty, or LeBron. He's just not. Nobody is.
No, but he got them to the final. Look, this is when the Lakers that era started because their first title year, the year they got there was when Shaq and Kobe figured it out. So yeah, I'm gonna say Reggie Miller, but when it's all said and done, probably Damian Lillard because good players and great players elevate everybody else around them. And when you talk about who was the second best player on those Pacers teams, all right, Rick Smits.
Oh, wait, they had the Davis brothers?
Rick Smith was, okay, that's fine. And Damian Lillard has C.J. McCollum, who's a really good player. So it's not like Reggie Miller was sitting around with a whole bunch of talent. It's like he was able to play really well and lead them very far in the playoffs every year. I guarantee you, if you look, he's got the Pacers further in the playoffs than Damian Lillard has gotten the Portland Trailblazers over the course of his career. So there's got to be something to be said for that.
Again, the expansion era. Look who they beat. For instance, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals when Jordan quit, and they lost to the Knicks 4-3, which was a pretty good series. They beat Orlando, expansion team, 3-0. Then they beat Atlanta, which was nothing, 4-2. And then they lost to the Knicks 4-3. Now, that team, though, of Reggie Miller, and again, I'm not diving too deep into the Indiana Pacers here. Their second leading scorer was Rick Smits, as you said, the dunking Dutchman. They had Byron Scott, the former Laker, Pooh Richardson, Derek McKee, Dale Davis. Yeah, not an incredible group. I just think Damian Lillard has already passed Reggie Miller. He's won by himself 2 playoff series with shots at the buzzer to close out another team. I mean, Reggie Miller won a bunch of playoff games, but can you remember a really good team he took down? I can't. I can't do it.
The Knicks were great. I romanticized them in my mind, how great the Knicks are. The Knicks were so great. They were kept winning championships by Michael Jordan. Don't ruin that era for me, Jay. Don't ruin the Knicks of the 90s when they would win games 38-36 because of the way they played defense with Xavier McDaniel. Don't do that to me, man. You're doing that to me.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I mean, listen, reasonable minds can disagree. Reggie Miller, obviously an all-time great, a Hall of Famer. And this is the other thing, Jay. If you say anything remotely controversial about comparing players or eras, people think you all of a sudden hate the guy. I don't hate Reggie Miller. Maybe he blocked me on Twitter a few years ago because I was critical of his announcing, but that has nothing to do with it. I promise it has nothing to do with it. Just as I don't. See, now he's laughing, and Lee is laughing in there in the control room. So again, I don't dislike Odell Beckham. He did block me on social media as well. And again, that's the problem. If you want to be critical of people. And I'm not trashing them. I mean, I'm not saying like Odell Beckham has been made by the catch and he hasn't done anything. How many playoff touchdowns does he have? I'm not crushing these guys, but at some point we have to just let the facts speak for themselves, right? Like
Twitter at how about a Fresca, Jason at Jason.
Now
I'm
coming off as a
McIntyre.
hater. Come on, Smith, you need to go in on somebody because I've done too much.
You were great until you said, well, he blocked me on Twitter. So, okay, there we go. No, you were. It was good. It was good right up until that point. Right up until that point.
I'm not going to check social media between the break. I'm going to go back to reading this Eagles story on The Athletic. Hey, you guys got to read this story. It's great. I mean, it is bananas what's going on with some of these teams, man.